Dara and I are particularly delighted to welcome to the show a very special guest, a lady whose uniquely diverse career has earned her an Oscar nomination, a GLAAD Golden Gate Award, a World Series of Poker bracelet, and the affection of legions of fans worldwide. She is a Broadway actress, a Hollywood star, and the better half of poker's most beloved super couple. She has kindly given up her lunch break today during a very busy press junket for the upcoming Child's Play sequel, Cult of Chucky. It can only be Jennifer J. Tilla. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Hello, David and Dara. So good to see you. I've been answering Chucky questions all morning, so this is a nice break. Talk about something I love, poker. Not that I don't love Chucky.
Well, about 3 years ago, my co-host came to me at the tournament break. I think we were playing in England somewhere, and very excitedly told me that you had started following him on Twitter. So I had to start with the question, why?
Well, Neil Channing retweeted something that you said. I forget what it was, but it was incredibly witty in English. And I was like, oh, I like this guy. And I don't know if I retweeted or I just liked it. And then I went to your feed, and I was like, everything this guy says is pure gold. Like, so then I just started following you on Twitter. But, you know, you're such a good writer, and I've been enjoying your Twitter ever since. You're one of the few people I haven't had to mute because there's so much American politics. It's like, I don't want to read about Donald Trump anymore. So I just start muting. But even people that I follow that are not political, like fashion people or whatever, everybody's got very political. But I never mute you. Neil Channing does all the English politics. It's like I know more about Theresa May than I ever thought I would, you know. But that's interesting too. You know, it's different for a change.
Thanks very much, Jennifer. I think the first movie I saw you in was Neil Jordan's fantasy comedy set in Limerick.
High Spirits. Yes.
Which starred Liam Neeson and Peter O'Toole as well. Mm-hmm. The Chipper started off as an Irish podcast, so much of our audience is Irish. And
really?
I recently bought a house for my daughter in Limerick. Do you have any strong memories of Limerick, or what the Irish affectionately call Stab City?
I love Ireland. I've done 2 movies there. I did High Spirits, and the ironic thing was Neil Jordan conceived of that as a way to bring, you know, some money into the local economy. And then when they got the script in, he was just coming off of The Crying Game, which was very critically acclaimed. The studio said, oh, it's too expensive to film in Ireland. And so he filmed almost the entire thing at Shepperton Studios in London. And we just went there for a week or so, a couple weeks to do some exteriors. But it was such beautiful countryside, and the Irish people are so nice. And, you know, we did some great locations there. And we had a lot of Irish actors in there, like Donald McCann and Mary Coughlin. And it was just a really idyllic time in my life. And I was just starting out. I thought I was going to become like a big star. Like, that's like such a great feeling. Like, I'm in a Neil Jordan movie. We're on location in Ireland. I'm eating like Irish food. And, you know, everyone started talking the Irish accent too, because it's like the Southern accent. It's just sort of a lazy way of speaking, but it's like very sexy. So all the Americans were talking Irish accent.
Only two Americans.
We had a good time on that movie. I learned a really good technique from Peter O'Toole, who was just delightful. Well, my scenes were with Peter O'Toole and Peter Gallagher, and Peter O'Toole really liked me and Peter Gallagher, so we'd sit in his dressing room. His butler would make tea for us, and he'd just tell us all these stories about the olden times. I think there was one story he told about, I think it was Under the Rainbow, where they had a wager who could lay down or sit down in the scene the most often. So you get like 50 pounds if you sat down in the scene, but you had to do it naturally. And you get 100 pounds if you could lay down in the scene. And he said that but you couldn't know that, and nobody could know what they were up to. And he said once he was walking down the hall, and all of a sudden his co-star was missing, and there was a window seat in the hallway, and he just found the window seat, and he curled up in the window seat and went to sleep. So he had a lot of great stories. But one of the things he said, his technique of acting, he said, look around, he said, and make sure for the coverage, make sure you're not in the scene. He said, because if you don't have any lines in the scene, you might as well not be in the scene. You can be in your dressing room. So I just remember Peter Gallagher, we were always joined at the hip in the scenes. He would say to the camera person, can you see me? And they say, yes, we see a little bit of your shoulder. And then he'd go, scoot over. He goes, can you see us now? And they say, no, you're out of the shot. And he'd go, great, well, we'll be in our trailer. And so I was very proud of my new technique of acting. And then my husband saw the movie, and he goes, Jennifer, you're hardly in the movie. And I said, yes, because Peter O'Toole said, if you don't have any lines, you should just get out of the scene. He goes, Peter O'Toole's a big star. He goes, you're just starting out. Don't you want to be in the movie? And I realized Yes, if you're just starting out, you should elbow people aside to get in the scene and put your listening face on, so maybe people will be looking at you instead of what they're supposed to be looking at. But I always remembered him saying that.
Despite huge films like The Wachowskis, Bound, Liar Liar, The Getaway, you have garnered more fame somehow from this little man here, the Child's Play franchise, and you playing, of course, Tiffany and yourself in some of those movies. I have a question about poker now. Do you have a nemesis in poker you'd like to be visited upon by either Chucky or Tiffany?
I do not have a nemesis in poker that I want Tiffany and Chucky to visit. But, there are people in poker that usually, if I have a problem with somebody in poker, it's because they're way better than me. And so, I have a problem with a lot of people in poker. But I have a thing like where there's somebody that will bust me out of a tournament, and then I'm like, I'm going to get them, and I can't rest until I bust them out of a tournament. And then that somehow makes it all right. So there are people, like, especially on Poker Night in America, they've got the better of me. But I love it because I'm really competitive. Like, I was on Poker Night in America, and I got creamed by Jason Mercier. But it's not like I dislike him because he outplayed me, or I don't want to play with him again. I cannot wait to play him again. Like, in fact, Sean Deeb also, like, on Poker Night in America, he wanted to do a bet, like, let's bet $5,000. Who's going to make the most money the next episode? Like, I love things like that because I'm very, very competitive. So if I'm in a situation where they're outplaying me or they get the better of me, literally, I cannot wait to butt heads with him again. I would never give that joy or satisfaction to Chucky or Tiffany. I would never send my minions in to take somebody down. Like, when I take somebody down, I want them to know exactly who did that, and I want it to be me. So, but that's the way in tournaments, right? If somebody takes a lot of your chips, it's not enough, like, I have to get my chips back. You have to get them back from the guy that you gave them to. And that's what makes poker really interesting. Stu Unger once said, in order to do really well in poker, I have to really hate the guy I'm playing with. And they go, what? And then they go, what about so-and-so? He's such a nice guy. Everybody loves him. What do you hate about him? And he goes, I hate his mustache. But that really gives you an extra jolt of adrenaline when you have a personal feeling towards somebody. And also, too, I'm sure you've noticed, I don't know, are you a poker player, David? Okay. You usually get bounced out of the tournament by the very person you're trying to get. Because you get involved in too many pots with him, and then you're like, he's just leveling me, he's bluffing me. Myself and Phil also, too, we noticed that. There's one person like, darn internet kid, he thinks he's so smart, I'll show.
Yeah, it's definitely something I can relate to. Another thing I can relate to is you've described yourself as a workaholic. Mm-hmm. I remember reading an interview that you had 8 unpacked suitcases sitting in your hallway at home. Do you have the same work ethic when it comes to poker?
I used to. Phil used to be astonished because I'd be like, Phil, teach me how to bluff. And he'd just like say, read this book and that book. And then he'd say a few days later, I came back, I was like, okay, I read all those books. Now will you teach me how to bluff? But it was really, that was one of my first questions on him. Like when we went for a date, I said, how do you know when to bluff? And I thought it would just be something like, not Yoda-esque, like, oh, when the time is right, young student. I just felt like he would say, well, after you've done this and done that, then all of a sudden it's like, ding, 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 it's bluffing time. He started pulling all these napkins out of the napkin holder, and he started writing on this napkin, and half an hour later, there were all these diagrams, which Phil had written out for me, when to bluff, and I still didn't know when to bluff. And I was like, oh my God, it was a simple question. It's like, I feel like I'm sitting in front of Richard Feynman giving a TED Talk. There's so much stuff, there's so much out there, like tutorials and Twitch and everything. I feel like I don't work nearly as I used to be very, very driven. I had some sort of idea like I'm going to become the greatest female poker player in the whole world. And now it's like, I think I've sort of tamped back on it a little bit. Like, I feel like I was so obsessive about poker that it sort of got in the way of my actual life. And now it's not like I'm hungry to read every single new book that came out and watch hours and hours and hours of video and, play around the clock. Like I've done 32-hour sessions. And I feel like It sounds very sacrilegious, but I feel like maybe there's more important things in the world than poker. But at the same time, I am very ambitious, and I would like to win like another tournament soon. And I'm always checking the Hendon Mob to see like where I am in the all-time women's money list, because in the all-time world money list, I'm sort of buried down there. And I'm going to be doing some poker tournaments on TV next month. Like, I love playing poker on TV, and I started thinking about, like, am I really a performer more than a poker player? Because I like playing poker and I like being on TV, but playing poker on TV is like Reese's Pieces. It's like the perfect mixture of two disparate things. Like, I really, really enjoy that. So I used to do a lot of poker in London. There used to be all these poker shows. I did the Premier League and the World Poker Open. But I used to sit with Neil Channing and Roland DeWolf and, and Viffer, and we'd all just play and play and play and play. And then they came up with this thing because they had all these people waiting with their little piles of money to come in, but nobody ever wanted to leave. And Neil especially, he made a point of pride. He wanted to be like, it used to be a 24-hour game, and then I think they made a 48-hour game. He wanted to play right till the end. So the producers came up with this idea that you would get voted off the island. And that was so every 4 hours, the audience was supposed to vote who they wanted to see go, so then you could have new fresh blood coming in with their piles of money. And I remember one time, there was a guy named Viffer who was like super loose and really good for the game. And he was super stuck, and we were all really happy because stuck Viffer is a guy you want in your game. But he's the guy the audience loves to hate. So they voted him off. And we were like, what? The game was just getting good. How could they vote Viffer off? And so we paid Alec Torelli to leave instead of Viffer. And Alec was like packing up, and the producers found out, and they came running over, and they go, you can't do that. And we go, we just did. And they go, no, that's just like shitting on all the viewers. We said they could vote off the person they want off. You can't pay someone else to leave. So they made Viffer leave, and Alec had to come back. But the thing is, when you do that, like, there's people, the audiences don't even understand. Like, there's people they love to hate, like Tony G or Phil Hellmuth, but they don't understand they actually really love this person.
Yeah,
sure.
So it's like, oh yeah, it's a momentary satisfaction. You vote off Tony G, but then who's punished? You are, because now you have to watch a really boring game for the next 4 hours. So.
Well, Jennifer, you mentioned the Hendon Mob there. Your career got off to an incredible start. Your first two Hendon Mob results are 2 wins. You started with the win in the 2005 WSOP Ladies event and followed it up by taking down the WPT Ladies Night at the Bike Casino. I think you were quoted at the time as saying that the bracelet was a bigger deal for you than the Oscar nomination that you got, of course, in 1995 for Bullets Over Broadway. Looking back, is that still how you feel?
Well, I just knew that was a good soundbite. I did a little impromptu press conference because there wasn't anything there. I grabbed my bracelet. I go, this is better than getting nominated for an Oscar. But, it's a different thing. People say, would you still rather, would you? I think I would like to win, if you say, would you rather win a bracelet or an Oscar? A main event bracelet and a supporting actress Oscar, I think they're about equal there, like it's kind of, but it's a very touch and go. But, they give out a lot of bracelets every year. That's when it was so easy to win that bracelet. It was my first World Series of Poker, and I just was like, I'm going to win so many bracelets, and, I'm going to be, and I wanted to wear them like Eric Seidel in the Full Tilt commercial and just clinking everywhere I go. In fact, when I won that bracelet, I wore it all summer with a whole bunch of other gold bracelets, and, I used it as a fashion statement. But I remember Phil and Antonio, they were like very sort of like, oh, it's so gauche to wear your World Series of bracelets. Like, I'm a girl, it's gold and it has diamonds on it. I'm going to wear it. But they said what you do with your World Series of Poker bracelet, you're supposed to, maybe you wear it that night, you pose for it with it, and then you're supposed to put it in the safe. And you're never supposed to mention, they had all these rules, Phil and Antonio and all their cronies, like you're never supposed to, if you're the chip leader at the end of the day, and you're never supposed to say how many chips you have. It's like, and that's really sad because a lot of times I was a chip leader and then I was like out like 1 hour into day 2. So you don't even get to celebrate like when you're ahead. But
I think that's just because Phil didn't have one at the time.
What? How? But then Phil won a bracelet at the World Series of Poker Europe. He won a bracelet, yeah. But he used to always say, everyone used to say, oh, how's it feel? Your girlfriend has a bracelet and you don't have a bracelet. And, he's really easygoing, but he did say it was a big relief. And they said, what does this bracelet mean to you when he won the World Series of Poker Europe bracelet? And he goes, this means nobody will ever again say to me, how does it feel when your girl has a bracelet and you don't have one? And I realized that maybe it really did bother him.
Our sponsor, Unibet Poker, and fellow Unibet ambassador, Diva Byrne, puts a lot of effort into making poker a welcoming experience for women. They've put on ladies' invitationals, and Diva created a ladies' Facebook group. The first two results that David mentioned, were ladies' events. Do you think the existence of those events helped you to get into the game?
Absolutely. Well, I don't play ladies' events very much anymore because I usually play, open events more. And, but I just remember how supportive the women were. Like the ladies' event, Phil said, "Oh, it's and it's really fun. Like every year, if I'm at the World Series of Poker and I'm not in another tournament, I will play the ladies' event. You meet wonderful women from all over the world, and some of these ladies, they're killers. They're super barracudas. It wasn't a soft field by any. I mean, every year you see some bozos like I'm gonna play in the ladies' event, like implying that it's a really soft field, but it's not. I mean, it's possible to plow through the field, but it's not easy by any means. But I do definitely think a lot of women are, even myself, like I've been playing for a really long time, but it's like intimidating to go to the Bellagio and sit down at a table full of men. And if you're not used to it, it's really great to have ladies events for women, to sort of start out with. And I remember there's a tour called Lips. I remember that at the final table, those women were there sort of cheering me on, and they were women that I didn't know, but they were like, we're women, we're going to stand together. So I think definitely ladies' events are really good, and it's a different sort of thing. It's like gyms. They have ladies' gyms for women who are uncomfortable working out with men, and then they also have co-ed gyms as well.
You added another big win to your resume in 2010 when you won the prestigious Bellagio Cup. Did you feel that this win in a very tough mixed field gave you greater credibility as a serious poker player?
I don't think so, because I don't think anybody is really watching, It's like, I was very pleased to win the Bellagio Cup, and I won some smaller like Bellagio that I don't think made it onto the Hendon Mob, but I don't really think so. It's funny because I think in the poker world, I will always be Bride of Chucky, and I will be the person that won the ladies' event, which some people say it's not a real bracelet. So I think that, I mostly play for myself, and I have personal bests that I like to achieve, and I have a lot of things that I want to accomplish, and I'm really happy with my game, but I don't think anyone goes to my Hendon Mob stats except me. I'm always like, every time I win something, I'm like, oh, I have a new flag. Like, when I cashed in Australia, it's like, a new flag. And I go and look, and then I go, ooh, did it bump me up? And it's like, yes, I passed so-and-so. I'm always looking at that. But actually, I ran into Vanessa Seltson, her girlfriend in New York, and I was kind of making fun of myself that I'm so obsessed with my Hendon Mob stats. And then the girlfriend goes, oh my God, Vanessa looked at the girlfriend, and the girlfriend goes, I always do whenever Vanessa wins something. I look to see where she is on the Hendon Mob stats. The Hendon Mob is an amazing thing that they did to catalog these players. It's like fantastic what they accomplished, and I think that that's what everybody goes to see what people have done before, and I don't know how they manage it, but it's really a great resource.
It is good. In 2006, you won the GLAAD award in recognition of your outstanding work on issues that affect the lives of the LGBT community. I've always found poker, the poker community to be, for the most part, a very inclusive environment for people of every colour, creed and orientation. Would this be your experience as well?
Yes, and I think we have some really good positive role models in poker. I would say in poker, it's not as much as in show business. It's not as many gay people but we have some like Jason Somerville, and he's very, very outspoken as to his sexual orientation, and he's very political, and everybody adores him. And I think he does a lot to educate the poker community through his Twitter and his speeches that he makes when he wins things, which is very often. And the same with Vanessa Selbst. Everybody respects Vanessa, and she's very outspoken and super cool girl. And so I think the poker community, it's like the Wild West. Poker players are like a bunch of strange, like outcasts, like people who work outside the norm. It's really like, I always see the poker players as kind of like cowboys or, or like Elon Musk type people. Most of them are incredibly intelligent. They don't feel like they have to conform. Like, for example, in Monte Carlo, you're supposed to wear a tuxedo or a suit or something at the casino. And just so when they have tournaments there, just the hordes of poker players all showing up in their sweatpants, like, what? There's a dress code. What dress code? And so, I think like people, sometimes you get people saying, well, this is terrible, at the final table, look, this is a bad image. But I think it's a great image. People show up, and if they want to wear a hoodie or they want to wear a suit or whatever they want to wear, it's like about the game, and that's what makes it really interesting to watch. It's not people pretending that there's something else, because most poker players don't really have to they don't have to answer to a boss. They don't have to say, oh, I can only wear jeans on casual Friday. So there's a tremendous amount of freedom in the poker world. Like people, everybody travels around, they follow the tournament circuit, and, we saw that movie. I think that movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, really encapsulated what it's like being a poker player at a certain level. Like when he was throwing those $100 bills at the guy, and he's like, have some fun coupons. Phil was so entranced by that. He goes, fun coupons, what a great name. Because a $100 bill, it buys you a little bit of fun. And so after that, he just started calling fun coupons, $100 bills, fun coupons. I don't think there's really been any movies, like poker movies, that have really sort of illustrated what it's like to be a poker player. I think the movie that came closest to it was Cincinnati Kid. Remember they having that all-night poker game, and the dealers are sleeping on the sofas, and then they wake up and they deal some more. But poker is very romanticized in the modern media, in the film world, and it's like the most ridiculous was James Bond. When one guy had a full house, and the other guy had a better full house, and then one guy had quads, and someone had straight flush. This is a royal flush. And the guy kept pulling the cards back. And then James Bond, of course, he had the best hand because he's James Bond. And he turned over his cards, and Phil's like, oh my God, I don't believe it. James Bond is a slow roller. I thought he's supposed to be a gentleman. He's like a slow roller. But, of course, it was very dramatic.
David mentioned at the top that you're one half of poker's premier super couple. Most so-called poker couples are not really a match of equals. It's usually the case that one half is primarily Jason's wife or Samantha Abernathy's boyfriend. You and Phil seem to be the exception to this. Is this how you see it, or is he just Phil Tilley?
No, Phil and I feel like they used to call me the Unibombshell. And I did not like that nickname. I thought it was very clever, but I didn't want to be an adjunct of Phil. Like, Phil's the Unabomber, I'm the Unibombshell. And then I was looking down the road, like, what if we break up and I'm still the Unibombshell? So I really tried to divest myself of that moniker. And Gavin Smith used to call me J. Tilla the Killer. He'd be like, because I used to play in all those Bellagio tournaments with him, and I walk in the room, he's like, here she comes, J. Tilla the Killer.
I like that one.
Yeah, I liked it too, because I was really aggressive, and I thought, now that sounds like I'm a baller. So that actually became my Twitter name when I was on Twitter, but now I'm Jennifer Tilley. But so the J. Tilla the Killer has sort of stuck now, but in the beginning, people were calling me the Unibombshell. But yeah, Phil and I, we're a great couple, and I'm really lucky I have him, and he's lucky he has me. But, it's nice to have somebody to travel around and have poker adventures with.
That's really nice. Well, my final question is one that I promised my girlfriend I would ask. Her favourite movie is The Fabulous Baker Boys.
Oh, okay.
I think she's got a bit of a lady boner for Jeff Bridges, if I'm honest.
Oh, yes, he's a wonderful man.
He's wonderful. Even though it's a brilliant movie and everyone's brilliant in it, you still managed to steal the show as the singing waitress Monica Moran, who does an unforgettable rendition of Candyman.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Is there any chance...
Who can make the sunrise, sprinkle it with you? I don't remember, but I remember it was really hard because I had to sing out of tune. And, I fancied myself a fabulous singer. So I sang it out of tune, like off beat and everything. And then they were like, great, we got it. And now they'd recorded it. Now I had to lip sync to what I was doing. But what I was doing was very, very illogical because I was coming in off the beats and everything. But it was really fun. And Jeff Bridges was amazing to work with. And I actually worked with him again on... what was that movie I did? Tidelands, like 20 years later. But actually, I ran into somebody in the mall after the movie came out, and they said, we were with the focus group, and we got your second scene put back in. And I said, what? Apparently,
They were going to cut that second scene.
there was,
Oh,
yes,
no.
there was an incarnation of the film where they cut the second scene where he runs into her and she's a waitress, which I thought sort of gave my character, made it, it kind of gave her an arc. But they said, but everybody said, we want to see more of Jennifer Tilly as Monica Moran. So they put the second scene back in, which was really nice.
Well,
for
the second
me.
scene is just as good in a different way. It gives
Yeah.
that character.
Sprinkle it with you, add a little this and a something or two. The Candyman. Oh, I remember I went, the Candyman can. The Candyman can. I haven't seen that movie for a long time, but I remember I drew out can. And I did my whole costume myself. And then I remember there was a scene where in the middle of the scene, I suddenly thought it was a good idea to put my hands inside my sweater and feel myself. I was like, this feels good. I was watching it later on. I was like, what are you doing, Jennifer Tilly? Stop that. Actually, my agent called him up. I guess he thought I could do everything, my manager. He called him up and he goes, oh, I hear you have a movie coming up. I would like to suggest my client, Jennifer Tilly, for the Michelle Pfeiffer part. And they were like, well, Michelle Pfeiffer's playing the Michelle Pfeiffer part. But she can be the weirdo that sings the Candyman can and feels her stomach in the middle of the scene. Well, I did that on my own. But yeah, that was really fun. It was an auspicious start to my career. And here I am, years later, with my co-star Chucky, talking about poker in London.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being our guest on the Chip Race.
Well, thank you.
It's been a real treat for Dara and I to have you here today, and a wonderful way to close the curtain on our third season as well. I know there's going to, when we come back for the next season, it's going to be a bit sad slumming it with guests who haven't got Oscar nominations.
Oh, well, I hope the next time I see you guys, I've won some major tournament, and you're saying, what are you going to do with
We'll
that
be there on the
$8
rail.
million?
We'll be there on the rail.
Right, on the
That
rail,
happens.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's really nice to see you in your natural habitat, too. How about that? Because we were going to do this in Las Vegas, and I had to leave very suddenly. Yeah, well, thank you so much for making time for me. Good luck in Nottingham, both of you.
Thank you very much.